out of the meeting. How many are we? Nosipo? Oh, we are enough. We are enough. Okay. Now, welcome to the meeting. I think we had a successful meeting last week, Tuesday. Let's start again and try to catch up on something that we could have done. Could we have been earlier in the meeting? Let us observe a moment of silence for mediation and end of prayer. Thank you very much. We are all welcomed. Apologies, Nosipo.
Yes, Chairperson, there is no apology from the committee members, but there is from the department. ODG is attending another meeting that is sitting at the same time as this one. The minister is in the Eastern Cape on business. ODM Magadzi is not well. That is all, Chairperson.
Chair, I also send my apology with your permission. I was not supposed to be here, but I was asked through yourself and Comrade Grace to join just for a few minutes. I'm on the ground in Limpopo, in Puluwan.
What is your apology?
I apologize, Chair, that I will not be there, but we agreed with your office and Comrade Grace that I must come in now so that I can introduce these reports for engagement. Because you had a strong view that there should be no way that there should be no someone from the executive.
Yeah.
In other words, the apology that after I've done these things, you are going to lose me because I need to be going back to these community meetings.
That's fine, for as long as at least you have at some point when we're about to finish, we must keep record of you for you to come and give a closing remark again. But that's acceptable. Okay. We are now on your hands, Deputy Minister Mashabo. There is no other apologies?
No, thank you very much, Your Excellency, Chair, and other honorable members. As we have received the apologies from the ministry, from our side, today there are 3 entities that report to Minister Mtunu, which is the Water Research Commission, that they are linked to us, then the 2 CMAs, Inkomati-Usuthu CMA and Breede-Gouritz Cashman Management Agency. They are led by their various leadership that is here. In the department, the team that is dealing with these agencies, they are led by Sisto Sigwaza and the other managers from the department. And we are very pleased that the leadership of the portfolio committee have made time to take these annual reports because we need to account. And at this stage, leadership will want the chairperson of the Water Research Commission and the CEO to be allowed the permission to do the shorter presentations. And then from there, they'll be followed by Breede-Gouritz, the chair, the CEO, and then the CEO and the chair of Inkomati CMA. The documentation chairperson, the abridged presentations, they have been circulated to you, including the annual reports the year under review. At this stage, with your permission, leadership, I want us to allow the chair of the Water Research Commission and the CEO to introduce themselves and the team, and then quickly go through the presentation. Then they'll be followed by the CMAs. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Agreed, Mams Gasa. I'm sure you will be on behalf of the minister as and when there is a need for the departmental intervention. Just show us that. But let us hear the chairman of the first entity with his CEO. I'm proposing members that we listen to all three reports not simultaneously, chronologically, and after them, then we can engage the report. Let us just note our inputs and our concerns and questions up until the third one.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee and honorable members of the committee for giving us the opportunity to present the WRC annual report. I would like to invite the CEO of WRC, Dr. Jennifer Mulanta, to introduce her team and make a presentation. And I also would like to note that this is Jennifer was not part of the year that we're reporting on. She joined the WRC in April 2022. She has only been in the position for 6 months. So her executive team might be in a better position to answer some questions that may come from the members of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, to members of the Portfolio Committee, colleagues, Deputy Minister. I'm here at the Water Research Commission. With me is the CFO, Mr. Faisal Ismail, as well as Dr. Mandram Sibi, the Group Executive Innovation and Impact, Dr. Stanley Lipati, who is the Group Executive Research and Development, and Ms. Rashmili Richmond, who is our Group Executive Corporate Services. Can I have the presentation slide, please?
Under normal circumstances, you must first show your face and see whom we are talking to, most especially because you are new. It will be better, but not only you, everybody else. You have to show the face.
Wait.
Yeah, the camera will pick you up.
Oh, the camera. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm here, Jennifer Mulanta.
Faisal Ismail, afternoon. Welcome, CB.
And other thanks, Chairperson. Can I have the presentation slide, please? Can share this. Chairperson, then I see that it's not being flattered from your side. We will. Is that better?
There are people are speaking at the background, CEO. Can they switch off their mics in order for you to be alone on the platform?
This is not slide one. Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. The presentation is on the WRC Annual Report 2021-22 financial year. In terms of our context, Chair, we're looking at the overview of the WRC, and then we're reporting on our performance with regards to the 4 components of the WRC, which is research and development, innovation and impact, as well as corporate services. Chair, in terms of our overview, our primary function and mandate is to promote, coordinate, and cooperate communication in areas of water research, to establish research needs and priorities, stimulate and fund their priorities, as well as to promote effective transfer of information and tech, as well as to enhance knowledge and capacity building within the sector. We have, Chair, not only over the years group our research in terms of similar disciplines, Chair, but we also have got an integrated research approach where we are trying to group some of the areas. Just to give an example, Chair, in terms of the climate change, we are looking at things like water scarcity, including extreme weather events. We are looking as well at the water energy food nexus, where we're looking at agricultural and food security under the limited energy and water security. We are looking at water quality and health, where we are focusing on improvement of nutrition, efficiency, and health impact related to water quality and how to improve this. We have got also a program around water ICT, where we're looking at development of systems for early warning, particularly related to climate change impact as well as extreme weather events, but also supporting our national department in terms of developing systems for billing and revenue collection, particularly that would affect our municipalities, water efficiency, use systems, as well as for data and information curation. Chair, our presentation then will touch on the highlights of the different functions or branches, as we call it. The WRC R&D activities in the last financial year focus on the generation of new knowledge and innovation, as well as ensuring that we are building human capital and developing a cohort of skills of researchers as required, but also that contributes towards the National Development Plan target. We have we're undertaking R&D, research and development in 3 basic units, which is water resources and ecosystems, water use, wastewater, sanitation futures, as well as agricultural use. Chair, in the last year, we were able to complete 113 research projects which were finalized, and these were linked to 362 students that were produced. Our highlights include the launch of the hydropower plant in the Tisa River in the Eastern Cape, as well as the development and use of environmental surveillance methods in order to be able to survey the non-sewer areas for COVID-19 threats. Just to highlight that the WRC process together with the NSA and ICD were able to predict the 4th wave of the COVID-19. We have also looked at agricultural development, use of water and for the development of biogas, and the development of what we call the DWS Field program. In terms of performance, Chair, we are looking at the next slide. In terms of our performance, Chair, we have got a number of objectives. In the first one, to enhance knowledge across the water knowledge and innovation, we are looking at new projects where we earmarked 75, but we ended up overshooting that by 35, and that was primarily linked to the COVID-19 project, as well as support projects that we had to do on behalf of the department. That resulted in the increase or overshoot of the number of RTI projects totally by 121, as well as the completion of an additional 33 projects in a year. In terms of growing a more inclusive and sanitation science community of practice, Chair, we are focusing on the transformational indicators where we're looking at female project leaders, Black project leaders, Black male project leaders, and Chair, I'm happy to pronounce that we were able to have at least 77 more female project leaders, 21 more female project leaders who were recruited that year. We also had an additional 34 more Black male project leaders. We also had 13 and 30 more Black female project leaders than the target. And this is indication that, Chair, we are working towards transforming the water sector, particularly the research space, and bringing in more researchers into the space. In growing inclusive water and science community of practice, Chair, we also have improved. We had set ourselves a target of 250 students, but 376 students were recorded, of which that was an increase by 126. And we were able to support an additional 114 students over and above the target that we had set for ourselves of 230. but also in terms of project leaders that I imagine, which are the researchers that then become research leaders. We were able to produce an additional 7 over the targeted 18 that we had set for ourselves. There were 24 additional innovation and products which were produced from our research, and taking into consideration that most of the research that we're looking at innovative and new, but also we're looking at innovation products and services. Our next branch is the innovation and impact, where we are focused on enhancing science-based decision-making, ensuring that the development and implementation of smart technology, as well as water and sanitation products and industries, and advancing and inspiring water conversation. Chair, our highlight in this regard includes the launch of the Generation Sanitation, benefiting 100 households in 2 settlements, where we're utilizing the SASTEP program, which is the South African Sanitation and Technology and the program. We also launched the green energy system, which was used to operate the Kraaifontein wastewater treatment works. We're able to assist in the employment of 900 young science, finance, marketing, and environmental graduates, Chair, through the Water Graduate Employment Project. And we were able to also produce a piece, biennial symposium book, where we launched the WRC 50 as the WRC was celebrating 50 years of the year under review. In terms of performance, Chair, we have started, in order to expand our scope and our footprint, to do what we call WRC 101 workshop. We set ourselves a target of 6, and we were able to attain that. But also we are conducting rural community road shows. And then we had set ourselves a target of 4, 1 per quarter, but we're able to exceed that by 1 additional one. We also conduct what we call WRC dialogues, and we set ourselves a target of 1 per month, which was achieved, as well as the summit and conference, which were 2, and these were achieved, Chair. We also not only support researchers, but also ensure that we are contributing towards policy formulation and review. And in that regard, Chair, we were able to produce policy briefs as the set targets, ministerial briefs, parliamentary briefs, as well as working papers that support decision makers with research-based knowledge. Chair, we were able to complete evaluations, an additional 3 on intellectual property out of the set target of 11. We established 1 business case, and were able to also do demonstration and pilot through the WADA, SASTEP, and RGI, with an additional 1 from the set target, Chair. We have been able to, as a WRC, to position ourselves as a competitive and key development partner. We're able to use 2 additional targets in terms of the dialogues and meetings, and the virtual system was able to assist us in that regard. The number of agreements that we have signed with other institutions was an additional 7 over the targeted 6. In terms of corporate services, Chair, we focused on ensuring that there is a managing of COVID-19 risks within the environment, the work environment, ensuring that we have IT tools that were able to ensure that we are dynamic and could allow a new modality of work, but also allowing for well-defined compliant landscape. We were also able to deliver 135 community-based projects which were supported in the year under review. Chair, we have also looked at our staff complement, and we have a 8% number of Black employees, of which 57% is female, and also those with disabilities make 4%. We have managed to maintain the number of masters employees at 22, as well as PhD at 16. And the Chair, for the finance section, I will hand over to the CFO to take us through.
Thank you, CEO. Afternoon, Chair. Afternoon, honorable members. Afternoon, Deputy Minister. Around the finance aspects function, in essence, what we focus on is obviously financial management, ensure that it's sound
May I ask that you stabilize your area of work, because you are not necessarily stable. You have up and down. Please stabilize that.
Oh, okay. Is this better, Chair? Is better, Chair?
It is.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Perhaps let me repeat again, just in terms of finance, I was saying that our activities are focused around two components in essence. One is financial management to make sure that there's good governance and sound financial management, and also around the supply chain management function where we focus. During the year under review, we were primarily focused on digitization and automation. That was a big part of it. I mean, in terms of virtual work, the CEO talked about a lot of the cost savings that one were able to achieve. So that was a primary focus. Some of the benefits that it yielded would become apparent in a minute. So around the financial performances, the specific items, just what we've done is we've just extracted a few highlights for the committee to look. Obviously, the financial statements, the annual financial statements are in the annual report, so they are very much detailed and so on. But we thought, as far as our key financial performance indicators that we'd like to perhaps share with the committee, they are noted as follows. One, in terms of our leverage income, we are primarily funded by levy income. That constitutes 80% of our funding. But there's a component what we call leverage income, where we are basically partnering with stakeholders out either in the sector or in commerce, in international space, to embark on various research projects as well as demonstrations of research material. So to make sure that we actually, it's a proof of concept and so on. So that's the nature of the work that fits under leverage income. And often we would contribute as WRC to a particular project or project demonstration, and it would be primarily funded by partners. In this space, we've, if you look at what was achieved last year versus the previous, last year versus the previous years, there's a increase, a steady increase. And the number of contracts that we've initiated have also increased. As far as our audit results is concerned, we've achieved all our audit outcomes, internal audit outcomes. We've had an unqualified audit report, and our previous year's external audit queries have been fully addressed. Now, perhaps just to talk about the actual financial performance, which is twofold. One, it's we measure ourselves against our plans, our budget, but also we look at what happened historically. So, whilst the historical reflection is not shown here, it is in the annual financial statements where we will do a comparative analysis taken in terms of actual expenditure. Our balance sheet is also included in there. And whilst it isn't a presentation per se, I mean, I need to present to the committee that the financial affairs of the WRC are sound, both from a liquidity point of view and as well as a solvency point of view. So we have no issues around having difficulty around not being a going concern. So we are fully a going concern, and for now and foreseeable future as well, in terms of our balance sheet and in terms of our just a bit of perspective and reflection on revenue that has been collected in comparison with what we have budgeted, forecasted. The one item that I'd like to highlight is our leverage income. We have been able to generate a lot more interest from this in the current year. Some of it has to do with the fact that in the year under review, there's been an opening up of of opportunities as well because of the relaxing of the COVID restrictions that we've had, and as a consequence, we were able to actually proceed and form. And the CEO highlighted the number of new projects that we've exceeded our plan basically. This is part of that as well, where we've had opportunities. We've also had additional funding opportunities in various areas, and that accounts for that 74 million increase. And I mean, some of those projects are very useful projects. The CEO mentioned the COVID-19 aspect. That was one of the projects. We've had on our water GEP 32 million additional income that has been garnered for that particular work. On the other hand, also because of the opening up of things of freer movement, we've actually achieved about 35 million more deliverables on the projects that we've had in the process, in the pipeline, as it were. So that was very encouraging for us to see. On the expenditure side of things, something that I'd like to highlight is obviously on research and innovation. Plus, we've spent 58 million on its core function. Then we've budgeted for, and some of it, a big part of it is accounted for by means of 71 million that I spoke about earlier on. But in addition to that, in addition to the 71 million more, which one would have expected, because that's the other side, it's a bit of a debit and credit entry that you have. So on this side of the equation, one would have expected 71 million or so. We're seeing the net amount of 58 million. The other component is in fact related to savings of some 13 million, which results from a number of things. Some of it, big part of it, relating to how we distributed our what's his name of information, sharing of information, workshops that we have using the virtual platforms, and also just some savings for workshops and conferences that we didn't have to buy to spend as much money once we still were able to hold these workshops. So there were some real savings. Of course, going forward with everything open up, I think we've learned quite a bit. A platform like this, for example, will generally have costed us money for all of us to incur the expenditure at this particular point in time. This is a savings. So I think there are some lasting savings that we will realize in this regard. Whilst we've had all the great good performances from a financial point of view, as I've indicated, that we've had some difficulties and some problems. And one area that I'd like to highlight, it's not a presentation, but it's in the financial statements, is around the irregular expenditure. It's been a while since we had irregular expenditure as such. Previous year we had in the current year we indeed have had, and it pertains to the approval of performance bonuses and salary increases, which were not quite in accordance to the delegations of authority. Those matters are being looked at. There is consequence management that flow from this to make sure that repetition. Apart from that,
Look, I might be keeping quiet, but honestly, your presentation does not get through properly. I'm not sure that it's only me. I don't.
Is it perhaps it's my voice that's dropping from time to time? Yeah, we are done. Chair, there's my apologies sincerely for that. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. of the portfolio committee members, and then to the chairperson of the board. And over to you, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah, as I have said, I don't know whether it is me alone, but I have missed quite a lot of input. But the figures were very clear, but as per your presentation, they were not necessarily very convincing. But can you get a second presentation? Please let us try to be at a place.
Comrade Chair, the second presentation, it will be Breede-Gouritz, ne? The Breede-Gouritz is led by the chair and the CEO. And we have Mr. Van Staden is an acting CEO that will do the presentation that is here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Sure.
Apologies, Chairperson. May I proceed?
Yeah, please do, please do.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good afternoon to you and to the Deputy Minister and the honorable members attending this meeting this afternoon. Chairperson, with me this afternoon, I have my team, which will be covering the presentation, particularly led by the CEO, acting Jan van Staden. Also leading with the financials will be the CFO, Zanele Mngoma, and also accompanied by other staff members who may, help out if necessary, Prudence Mahlaba, as well as Sylvia Mbombo. Chairperson, just before this acting CEO leads with the presentation, I just want to highlight just a couple of things as an overview, that in the year 2021-22, under the consideration of BGCMA, the entity continued to provide effective services, within the Breede water management area. And also just to highlight, just to remind everyone what water resource management includes, which are issues of pollution control, river rehabilitation, including alien removal of species, and that processing of water license applications, and particularly, Chairperson, is the issue of awareness raising to our stakeholders. You can't manage resources without ensuring that they continue to understand what your business is in that space. And we also understand that you can't do this business without taking your stakeholders on board. What's also very interesting in the year under review is that we are very excited about the prospects of forming a single catchment management area within the Western Cape, as this will provide an opportunity for BGCMA to share its experiences and knowledge gained over the past 15 years. We are also prepared, as we know that this BGCMA has been through this kind of process before, and we've received officials from the Water and Sanitation Department. But what warms our hearts, Chairperson, is that the BGCMA, it's already aligned its conditions of service with those of the Department of Water and Sanitation, which means officials coming from Department of Water and Sanitation would not be hindered or be affected when they move across. And also to highlight, on the 31st of March 2022, the Honorable Minister visited the area, particularly in our office, to witness the raising of the feeder canal walls to the greater Brandflay scheme. But what is very important about this project is that not only will it actually increase water availability, there would also be opportunities that would open up with the processing of more water licenses, which will create more work opportunities in this space. And also, what really breaks me in this particular year is that we've worked with various auditors in the past, but this year the entity received something that I am not proud of as the chairperson of the entity, which is the qualified audit opinion with findings and the CEO will expand on that. But the main important issue here was the auditors were not accepting of the proof provided regarding the existence of debtors. In other words, the entity has a debtors book received in 2018, which came from the water trading entity, which we've been, inherited. But obviously, some of the files appear to be empty, which makes it very difficult for the entity to prove whether the users are the actual debtors or the holders of that debt. Chairperson, without expanding any further, I will allow the acting CEO, through you, Chairperson, to continue and complete the presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Van Staden, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manishi, and good afternoon to the Honorable Chair and the other honorable members of the committee, and also all the other colleagues that's listening in today. So this is a quick presentation, but hopefully a comprehensive presentation about the annual report of the Breede-Gouritz CMA for the year 2021 to 2022. So the presentation just very quickly will deal with institutional arrangement, the Breede-Gouritz water management area, the area that we operate in, the vision, mission, values, strategic objectives, annual performance information, employment equity statistics, gender statistics in the Breede-Gouritz CMA, and then the annual financial statements. That part of the presentation will be done by the CFO of the Breede-Gouritz CMA, Ms. Ngoma. So just where we are sitting as a water resource management entity, of course, right on top is the Honorable Minister, Department of Water and Sanitation, then the Breede-Gouritz CMA. We link and deal a lot with provincial government, local government, and just for a matter of interest and information, there's also a water board in our area with the name of the Overberg Water Board. And when you go down below us, there's a lot of catchment forums that are linking into the Breede-Gouritz CMA. And of course, there's also irrigation boards and water user associations. And then on the side of the local government, there's water service authorities and water service providers. I just want to emphasize again the block that say catchment management forums. As the chair said already, as a standalone entity, the Breede-Gouritz CMA cannot do a comprehensive good water resource management function in the area if you are not supported and helped by all the local forums and also the community that are part of the forums. In this game of water resource management, you cannot win it alone. You need to work together to achieve results. Our area is quite a vast area. It is basically the southern eastern part of the Western Cape province. It's called the Breede-Gouritz CMA, and just adjacent, you can see the other water management area in the Western Cape is the one they call the Berg-Olifants water management area. So our area is a total diverse area. There are areas where there's a high rainfall. There are areas with a medium rainfall, and there's an area with a very low rainfall. We've got a beautiful coast on the southern part, a garden route, with all the pristine water ecology that needs to be protected. And I can just mention that on the eastern side, on the Klein Karoo, the Great Karoo area, those includes towns like Oudtshoorn, De Rus, Uniondale, Van Wyksdorp, Prince Albert, and Beaufort West. It is still extremely dry, and it's actually very painful to say that, but some of those areas didn't receive sufficient rain for the last 7 to 8 years, and the situation is quite desperate. It's not desperate when it comes to water supply to people for drinking purposes, but it's more desperate on the side of the farmers that needs water to irrigate because there's no water to irrigate. The vision is the Breede-Gouritz Catchment Management Agency has a vision of quality water for all forever. That is about everything, what we stand for and why we are established and what are we doing here. And an important one under the mission is emphasize again here, you do water resource management with the help of the stakeholders. Otherwise, you cannot do water resource management in a water management area. The values, I want to focus on the one, approachability. The Honourable Minister said previously that the officials of the CMAs, they belong in the field, they must be visible, they must be always available to help people when there are requests for help. And I can say with all honesty that in the Breede-Gouritz CMA, we really focus on this part of approachability, where people can approach us anytime.
Acting CEO, please go to the content, please, of our performance.
Right, so Deputy Minister.
Oh, you can't do that, Deputy Minister. Please allow him.
I'm a fighter, man.
Mr. Mahlobo, allow the presenter to present to us. We are listening here, and it's very helpful.
Chairperson, my apology, but CEO got my message. Thank you.
But I thought I'm chairing the meeting.
Yeah.
When
Throw Muhlala Mahlobo out to chair. My apology.
no, I don't mind intervention at any given time. So let's continue.
Okay.
Perhaps through you, Chair, quickly before the CEO continues, just for a second, is to say I think the reputation for these kinds of preambles is because we accept that honorable members might be new. We want to make sure that you're fully acquainted with what BGCMA is. Thank you very much for allowing us to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Let's continue. I will be quick through this background information, but the strategic objectives of the Breede-Gouritz CMA, and these are the things that you need to do proper water resource management. Is things like water resource planning, water use management, institutional engagement, water allocation reform, resource protection, strategic support, and management and governance. That is almost the whole sphere of water resource management. And I maybe I forgot to say in the beginning that a CMA is established in terms of the National Water Act to do water resource management on a local level. So coming to the real meat after presentation. So I mentioned before, if we start with water resource planning, so a big one in a planning activity is the comment that a CMA must do in all statutory land use applications that are coming into the office. These are extremely important because if you provide proper comment within the regulated time frame, you ensure always that people are protected, property are protected, ecology is protected. For example, if you allow a housing development in a floodline, for example, that is, it creates a grave danger on the people that's going to live in that area. So this one, our target was 90%. We actually achieved 97%. To put it in numbers, that was a comment on over 250 applications that we received in this performance year. If I can move to water use management. So in water use management, you need to register water use, all right, to know what volume of water is used, but also the water users are also paying water according to the registration. So the registration is a very important building block in the big scheme of things for water resource management. Our target was 85, we achieved 87%. The other one is linked to the number of signed and finalized validation, verification, confirmation letters captured. This one is linked to the registration. We were under the impression that we're going to finalize 750 for the year, but we only managed 260. And the reason is quite simple. The documents and the letters was actually not available to capture it on a warm system. And I want to go to the important one, still under water use management, the percentage of water use authorized, captured, licensed. So every time there's a license authorized and issued, it must be captured on a system. Our target was 100% because it's supposed to be 100%, but we only achieved 98% because there was some problems with the capturing time before the end of the year was reached. Then the important one for everybody in the country is how quick do you actually process a water use license application. The target of the Breede-Gouritz CMI is 85%. We actually achieved 89%. We are very proud of that. The function of the Breede-Gouritz CMI in this function is actually to process license applications. So we do everything on the system, and then we pass the final document for approval to the Department of Water and Sanitation, be it the national office or the provincial office in Bellville. A general authorization is also a type of a license approval. So for this one, we receive over 50 that we need to confirm it falls under a general authorization, and we managed to actually to confirm all 50 of them. That's why our target, we say 100% is actually achieved. Then we move to the number of audit reports. So audit reports, every water user that's authorized to use water, they got like audit in terms of a priority schedule. So our official go around, check in the license conditions or the GI conditions, are they complying to the law? Because if you don't do that, people tend to forget what the law is saying. So we target for 18, we actually achieved 96 for the year under review. Then the number of water quality compliance reports, this one is directly linked to the quality of final effluent coming out of sewage works at municipalities. By doing this audit, you actually ensure or you steer a municipality in a certain direction to put efforts in place if they are not complying to a water quality standard to well comply. And our target was 4, and we did 4. The number of confirmation letters sent, this is the whole thing linked to the V&V, the verification of existing lawful water use. We planned for 200. We actually achieved 120. And the reason is we did appoint a service provider for this one. And because of, for example, COVID, there's a lot of technicalities that came into the process, but I'm pleased to say that going forward, we're going to rectify that. Then the important one, how do you empower your stakeholders? How do you create awareness? Because as I said before, if you don't empower the public or create awareness, you cannot win in water resource management. So we've got a very tall order when it comes to number of learners and stakeholders capacitated and awareness in water resource management. Our target was 5,000. We actually achieved 5,574. And also what is important to mention, this is not just figures. Every time that we reach out to stakeholders or school children or learners, is actually attendance register. We can actually count, and somebody can come afterwards to verify the number, and indeed it did happen. And then I want to mention the one that is saying percentage of approved water-related community projects funded. There we funded about 8 projects in this year. And this one is quite simple. People can apply, NGOs, local communities, for funding for these type of water-related projects. It is actually an initiative from the CMA to bring the people and the communities closer to water resource management. Because in many cases, water resource management can become very technical and difficult for the ordinary person to understand. But to help, for example, with irrigation equipment or better irrigation practices or shade nets, those type of things, it brings water resource management closer to the community and a better understanding to build from that point. Then what I mentioned before, the number of forums, critically important. The forums are our eyes and arms in water resource management. Our target was a very tall order of 40, but we actually achieved 37. And the reason is that some of the forums got together to form regional forums, and by doing that, our numbers that you can actually achieve reduced. Water allocation reform. Water allocation reform was very much linked to water use management, the part I dealt already with, license applications, for example, general authorizations, the one that the chair of the board, Mr. Manisi, mentioned, the Brandfly scheme with the bigger allocation of water that's now available. Those are all activities that will support water allocation reform to put more water in the hands of people that did not have water previously. So we got a item here, like, for example, percentage of HDIs and RPS taking support on water use. And I mean, the signal out in the area is very clear. Everybody that's coming to the Breede-Gouritz CMI that needs support, how to use water, how to apply for water, they are getting support in this office. Then there's also workshops where we empower resource poor farmers in water resource management. For example, the application, the funding that's available in various government departments. And we also we team up with other departments also to make it a more comprehensive package to our water, to our resource poor farmers in the area. Then we also running a project for the last 3 or 4 years already in the area, where we fund the installation of rainwater harvesting tanks. And our target was 400 for that year. We actually achieved 400. And these rainwater harvesting tanks is related to small scale irrigation, like food gardening or small types of vegetables, those type of things. The purpose is not really for drinking water, is more in relation to irrigation of food gardens. Then water resource protection. Here are things. How do you look at the resource? We look at the quality, pollution, the riverbeds, etc. In the area so it's important to do, when you want to do water resource protection, you need to know what is the quality of your water resources. So we've got in the area sampling points in 80 different places, all over spread over the whole of the area. And actually our target was 80, but we achieved actually 110. So it does means that our information and knowledge about our water resource base is so much better than it was in the year before. Then the number of river rehabilitation projects funded, technically supported. What we do here is the big problem of alien invasive vegetation that are growing next to our rivers, in our riverbeds. So we fund projects where together with other entities and state departments to help to control this alien growth next to rivers. So we call that project a river rehabilitation project, because the vegetation is removed, the big trees, and the beds are clear, and then actually the riverbed is replanted with indigenous vegetation that always belonged there. So we call it, that's why we call it a river rehabilitation project. We've got 3, we planned for 3 in the year, and we actually achieved 3. Then a percentage of reported non-compliant cases resolved. Our target was always to resolve all cases, but we actually achieved only 78%, because in general for the year under review, there was actually a marked increase in the number of water users or people complaining to the Breede-Gouritz CMI with regard to non-compliance, pollution issues. So that division of us was a little bit stretched, but still they achieved almost 80% of the 100%. And we're working on this to bring in additional capacity so that we can improve actually the response time to complete it within the time. Then under the strategic objective, strategic support, there we try to do everything, percentage of reports complying, financial reporting, prescripts, the tariff report, we did that. Number of risk assessment reports. So these are all the normal organizational things that the water entity must do, and we did that. continue with strategic support. Can just mention the percentage of targeted procurement budget spent on BBBEE. Our planned target was actually to spend 100%, and 100% was an amount of 2.3 million, but we actually only spent 84%, and that's an amount of just over 1.9 million. And the reason is sometimes it's difficult when you sit in a rural area on the side of Worcester and George to get the suitable compliant BEE companies to actually to apply for certain things when we need services or goods. Then the percentage of water resource management charges collected. So the CMI and our CFO will talk about this, but we receive our budget, we receive money from the department, and we also receive money from the water users that are registered on the system. So it's very important to collect those water resource management charges from the water users. If you don't collect it, I mean, then the CMI cannot be sustainable. And our target was to collect 75%, and we actually collected 84%. So this is quite good, and we did develop a recovery plan coming from the past, and it made a positive impact so that more people are actually paying the water resource management charge. Then on the organogram, our target is 75% of the post, and the actual achievement was 79%. So we are the target met. Then management and governance is the number of shareholders compact between the board and the minister. There can only be one that was achieved, and the other number of agreements signed with other departments, other entities. Our target was actually to sign one agreement, but we actually achieved two. Then when it comes to employment equity statistics in a year, in the Breede-Gouritz CMI in all aspects are displaying the demographics of South Africa. We've got 71 officials working in a Breede-Gouritz CMI, and about 93% of the 71 is what we call now black colored people or black people. And also in relation to income and also seniority of post, those are also exactly displaying what the EE statistics are saying. So it means that the females are getting that percentage of the income as they do represent on the number of employee statistics. So in general, we are reflecting in all aspects what this country, South Africa, is looking for. The gender statistics in the Breede-Gouritz CMI, we've got 61% females and 39% males. And that is also, like I said before, it is spread over all ranks and also all income levels. And Honorable Chair, if you allow me, I will hand now over to the CFO to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Yanni. Good afternoon to the honorable members. My name is Zanele Mngoma. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. Next slide. Okay. Finances of the Breede-Gouritz Cashman Management Agency. The overview: total operating expenditure. The agency initial budget for the 2021-22 was 75.1 million. And for the financial year prior to that was 70 million. So which shows an increase of 5 million for our budget. And then the augmentation allocation from the department for the 21-22 financial year, the department gave us 40 million. And this shows an increase compared to the prior year. The prior year increased, it was about 38.6 million. So it increased by 1.9, the augmentation from the department. The expenditure during the year 21-22 financial year increased from 70 million to 78 million, which shows an increase of 8 million. The increase of that 80 million, we've covered it from the interest received that it will show under the income statement on the next slide. So which means the 8 million that we've budgeted it based on the interest received from the bank. The increase is largely attributed to the increase in operational expenses as well as the employer-related cost. We all know that a year prior to the one in question, we were still recovering from the COVID-19. So everything from that year dropped. That's why you see that our expenditure for that year was low compared to the expenditure of the year in question. So now things are getting back to normal. Okay, in terms of the water trading, the revenue from the Cashman management charges reflects an increase of 9%, which is 40, previous slide. So in terms of revenue collection, we've increased by 9% in terms of collection. The prior year, we've collected 45 million, and then the current year in question, we've collected 49 million. Debtors collection days, and then also the debtors collection days shows an increase from 390 to 424. The reason for the increase in number of days is due to the decrease in collecting revenue from significant customers who owes the agency a significant amount. Thank you. Okay, this slide is showing the assets versus the liability. In terms of the report, the documents of the BGCMA, our assets do exceed the liability. The current asset was sitting at 169, and yet the total liability was 13 million, which this one shows that the agency have the potential of meeting its obligation, and we are a going concern. Thank you. Okay, this one is an income statement, which is the revenue income versus the expenditure. For the 2021, our total revenue was 92 million, but for the year 2020, it increased to 99 million. And then the expenditure for the current year in question, it's 78%, which give us a surplus for the year of 21 million. Also, this one, the surplus for the year is positive 21 million. It decreased from 21.5 to 21.2, meaning that our income exceeds the expenditure. The agency is able to pay for its debt on time, and we are managing our finances very well. Thank you. Cash from operating activities. The agency had a positive net cash flow from operating activities amounted to 17 million in 2021-22 financial year and 25 million in 2021. This decrease is attributed by a decrease in revenue collection from a significant customers. The decrease in revenue collection is due to some customers not willing to pay because of different reasons. We have the Karoo area users. Those users are not willing to pay because they're experiencing drought. Some of our users are refusing to pay because they are disputing the balances that is in the invoice. Some of them are claiming for us to write off the interest, so they are willing to pay the capital, which at this point in time, we are looking at all those disputes, and the agency is trying to address them in order for us to improve our collections. Cash and cash equivalent. Cash and cash equivalent reflects a positive balance of 112.6 million. And the prior year was 96.3. The increase of 16.3 in cash and cash equivalent, it shows that the agency has the ability to meet its short-term debt collection and indicate that the agency has adequate financial resources to continue in operation for the foreseeable future. Okay, qualified audit opinion with finding. The chairperson of the BGCMA, Mr. Mnisi, already alluded on that one, that in our existence of 14 years, This is the 15 years. This is the first time that we are receiving this kind of qualification. The main reason for us to receive this qualification, we always received unqualified, clean audit and all of that. The reason why we've received the basis of qualification is failure to prove the existence of water users. Out of the samples of 84 million that were taken by the auditors, 18 million of that, we could not prove the existence of the water users. As Mr. Minister already alluded to that, the financial transaction from the department took place when we're taking over the data's book in January 2018. But only the financial transaction that took place. Some of the documents we've never received in order for the supporting document of those financial transactions. So it was difficult for us to prove then the existence. The auditors are raising a funding that you keep on billing the people, but we as auditors, we don't have a comfort of whether are those people existing or not, because we've inherited an empty boxes with no files from the department. And then 2.6 of that was the finding is triggered by the invoice that we have raised for that particular financial year. Also, we could not prove the existence of those invoices that we've billed the clients because we don't have supporting documents from the inherited data's book. Okay, and then 761, the 761, which is finding number 2, those are the customers with credit balances. Also, that one we could not prove the existence of the water users because we don't have any supporting documents like the license registration documents in order for us to be legally billing them. Thank you. Okay, and then the third finding it's about the collection. So the auditors are saying that the agency is not doing enough to collect the money that is due to the agency. The reason for that, we are battling to recover the old debt which we inherited from the department. Because the customers are disputing the invoices, are disputing the balances, some of them are even disputing the registered volume. So at the moment, the agency is in a process of appointing the service provider to assist us with improving the debt collection. So all these problems is coming from the inherited data's book from the department. We inherited about 94 million data's book, and the figure is increasing drastically because of the people who are not willing to pay. And then the fourth finding, Chair, is about bad debt expense. We have not done any actual write-off because according to the legislation, you cannot just wake up and write off the debtors. You need to follow all the prescript of sending warning letters, taking all the legal route before you can write off. So the auditors are so concerned that our debtors will keep on increasing, and yet we are not writing off any debtors. Yet we've explained to them that we are binded by the legislation. It won't make justice for us to write off the debtors. That will be premature. So we need to exhaust all the processes that are in place before we can consider that route. It is the aim of the agency to collect all the money that is due to the government. So that's why we are hesitating to write off. But due to unforeseen situation, due to legislation that are forcing us, we might end up taking that route so that at least we can recover the capital and write off the interest. But the agency is in the process of looking on all those issues. Thank you. We also had an irregular expenditure for our first time. The irregular expenditure was caused by non-compliance with preferential procurement regulation, the local production and content. The agency failed to to prescribe, to designate the sector as per the National Treasury Regulation. When you are buying things like office furniture, clothing, textile, you need to give the service provider this SBD form, which is 6.2 and Annexure C. In order for the service provider to qualify, they must fill in, to qualify for the next stage of pricing, they must fill in those forms and designate that all those products that we are buying are the local production content, are not taken from overseas, they are South African content. Also, and then another finding is the SCM deviation. Also, for the amount of 584, the agency failed to obtain quotations, where the reason that we wrote down because of the deviation were not accepted by the auditors. They are saying we can only deviate for the cases of emergency and sole provider. In our case, we were deviating, like for instance, if we bought a car from Ford, we want to make sure, and then it's out of maintenance, want to make sure that car was still servicing it at Ford. So we'll write a deviation. So the auditors are not accepting that. They are saying it's not a case of emergency. So that's what causes the irregular expenditure. Thank you. Okay, and then another irregular expenditure for our company that we've appointed, Traveling Services Management. On the tender document, the agency failed to disclose the evaluation criteria that will be used in order to score that company. So for an amount of 921 in that financial year, we had an irregular expenditure under the travel management services due to failing to disclose the evaluation criteria. For all the irregular expenditure incurred, there was no act of fraud, corrupt, or other criminal misconduct. There is no financial loss. The value for money was achieved. So we as the agency, we are very confident all the processes of the irregular expenditure were followed, and we are so confident that there were no criminal misconduct and the value for money was received. The service was delivered. Thank you. That's all from our side, Chair. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Chair, members, the next presentation, as agreed, will be done by Inkomati-Usuthu CMA. We thank the Brotherhoods that they will be led by the Chair, Ubabumvela Sumtembu, with Umohalabu Bizos, the CE. They have the floor to present Your Excellency, Comrade Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can continue, sir. Can continue.
Thanks very much, Chair, for the opportunity for us to present our annual report. I'm not alone, Chair. I'm joined by the joined by the members of the board and management as well, and under the leadership of our new CEO. Before I give to the CEO, Chair, I will give a few highlights on the annual report. Chair, we continue to improve lives of previously disadvantaged people in all our management, water management areas. In last financial year, we managed to procure services from BBBE services providers that amounted to 20 million rand. And through our CSI program, we managed to drill and equip one borehole with 2 water tanks in the Nkomazi municipality area. We continue to do the same in all our water management areas in our area. And through the internship program that we managed to employ 22 graduates. We also awarded bursaries to 14 of our employees to further their studies. There were few challenges, Chair, that we encountered in the last financial year. The poorly maintained municipality wastewater treatment works continue to pollute our water resource, and is still a concern that is ongoing. The budget reduction allocation that we received from the department, we also got less last financial year, and it gives us problems in terms of doing our work and allocation of what we need to do. We're still not happy with the slow revenue collection rate. The data's book given to us by the department continues to give us challenges, and we're still not happy with that. Chair, before I give to the CEO, I'll just give good news. All the vacancies in the board is now filled, and we're happy that the department filled those positions. We managed to appoint the new CEO, Mr. Charles Mohalava, last financial year, and will be leading the team. I'm happy to introduce him to you, Chair. Lastly, Chair, we are happy to announce that we got an unqualified audit opinion from the AG last year, which is normally called clean audit. Chair, with your permission, let me give to the CEO and his team to do the presentation of our annual report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Portfolio Committee, together with the members of the committee. My name is Lucky Charles Mohalava, the Chief Executive of Inkomati-Usuthu Catchment Management Agency. I'm joined, Chairperson, by my colleagues in the executive, Advocate Shabangu, who's the Head of Corporate Services, the Acting Executive Water Resource Management, Dr. Tandai Saunyama, as well as the Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Sandra Mabunda, who will then assist me with the financial part of the presentation, Chairperson. We deal with the outline, Chair, of the presentation that covers the areas as included in this slide. And of course, the purpose of the presentation is for the agency to provide to the committee its performance for the last financial year. Chair, I think our emphasis as an agency is to ensure that we are able to fulfill our statutory mandate, and we're quite excited that we are part of management and the employees of the agency to look at the water resource management, particularly at local level. And I think that gives us an opportunity as an agency to ensure that issues around water conservation, protection, and development of the resource is actually one of the strategic thrust of the implementation of our strategy as an agency. Of course, I think we're gaining a lot of experience in the sector, particularly on issues around transboundary water management, as we do manage catchments that transfer water to Eswatini, the Kingdom of Eswatini, as well as to Mozambique. And I think some of the lessons that we've learned over the years since the agency was established have really built a good knowledge base for us to share our experiences locally in the country as well as abroad in terms of how do we manage and deal with issues of water transboundary management. The legislative mandate is as indicated in the slide, Chair. We won't deal much with that, but except to say that our enabling legislation is obviously the National Water Act, and these are the key sections that are quite applicable to the agency in the execution of its mandate. And these are the outcomes, Chairperson, of the agency. We wish to emphasize on issues around stakeholder engagement, which is a key outcome of the agency, the financial sustainability of the agency, the skills set that we have in the organization, as well as our key mandate, the issues around the protection of the resource. I think it's quite important, Chair and members, just to indicate that the agency operates in 4 main catchments, being Crocodile, Sabisand-Usuthu, as well as Inkomati. And the entity is located strategically within and operating within 3 district municipalities, being Ehlanzeni District, Wrc Sebande District Municipality, as well as the Nkangala District Municipality within the province of Mpumalanga. Equally so, Chair, we wish to also indicate that we are currently operating and monitoring about 269 sites, 31 of those being the river flow sites, and 25 being the rainfall sites. But in addition to that, we also are looking at issues around groundwater. And it's important, Chairperson, to indicate to the committee that the progress that we've made in terms of underground water is that the agency will be finalizing its studies around groundwater availability within the water management area. We also have about 23 ecological water requirement sites that we are looking at and managing, including about 10 international application sites. Those are sites that are assisting us to monitor our ability to monitor the quality and quantity of the resource that has been transferred to both countries, being Eswatini and Mozambique. We are also managing, Chairperson, 2 dams, being the Inyaka and Kwena Dam, largely to manage issues of the dam levels, issues around quality, and ensure that as an organization being responsible for the water resource are able to implement restrictions when necessary. And this is done through some of the key structures that were established that seek to deal with and manage the resource. And as and when there is drought, those are matters that the established committees look at to release water into the main rivers that we operate on. Also, we are looking at the monitoring of the nutrient enrichment in the main rivers and some of the aquifers. And that is to us some of the contribution that we're making into the work that we do. Chair, it's quite important that we reflect to the committee on issues around demand and the supply, and certainly we are now aware that the demand actually exceeds the supply within the water management area. And in the 4 sub-catchments that we're operating in, clearly it's visible from the slide on the left that the area of Inkomati sub-catchment, as well as the Crocodile, as well as Sabi, certainly the demand are exceeding the supply. We must hasten, Chairperson, to indicate that the slide on the right is reflective of the dam levels that are reflecting the capacity for the whole water management area, which most of the dams that we are monitoring were at 100%, and thankfully to the rains that we've received over the last couple of months. We are also looking at the areas around water use efficiency and the promotion of water mix, which also looks at surface water as well as groundwater, which we really, as an agency, are promoting, particularly in the areas of Usuthu Catchment, which is around the Wrc Sebande District Municipality. Chair, I think it's also equally important to also share with the committee For the issues of the pollution incidents and the pollution that we see within the water resource, within Usuthu and Komati and some of the areas within the water management area, we're observing, and over the last a year, that there has been areas of non-compliance, largely due to the sources of pollution being the wastewater treatment works, which discharges affluent dust downstream of the discharge points, as well as some of the contribution that relates to the raw water overflowing and the pump within the pump stations. And as you can see in the slide, the red areas certainly indicates issues around non-compliance, which is clearly unacceptable with the applicable standards. And the orange, which is an indication of the areas being non-compliant, but which are tolerable, as well as green. And interestingly, we're beginning to see indications that the water continues to deteriorate due to the contribution of these polluters. And we're working very hard as an agency together with our partners, the mines, the municipalities, the irrigators, to ensure that this situation in the long term is going to be reversed, to ensure that the water is actually of acceptable levels for future generations. The water quality hotspots, and I think the slides are clear. And Chairperson, in terms of our interventions, our division that deals with compliance monitoring and enforcement are really working hard to ensure that we enforce the legislation, we enforce regulations. We're looking at issues around the implementation of various strategies and plans in the organization to ensure that the water is protected in line with what legislation requires. We have taken a position, Chair and members, that we need to strengthen all our efforts as an organization to look at issues around enforcement. And that will include doing the necessary investigations, working very closely with the National Prosecuting Authority, as well as the South African Police Services to bring those polluters to book, as we've seen that their contribution really has an impact on the resource. Chairperson, we're proud to report to the committee that we have really invested in some of the technologies which are really supporting the organization to make informed and timely decisions. And in this instance, we can report to the committee that some of the systems that we're using around decision support systems includes the development of the early disaster warning systems, which looks at floods, droughts, as well as pollution incidents. And that has been found to be very effective in its operation in the last financial year. But also utilizing the systems, Chairperson, to also provide value-added services to the number of municipalities and in the province, particularly the Department of Kokta in Mpumalanga, to really provide credible information around issues of floods and droughts. And I must say that that information has really assisted some of our sister departments and our stakeholders to plan accordingly for that eventuality. Chair, issues around transformation, and I think as an agency, we're really taking these matters seriously. And going forward, we are really are going to increase our efforts in ensuring that in the area around the transformation of the water sector, particularly on areas around the water allocation reform, that is certainly a matter that is on top of our agenda, is a priority, and we want to see this matter being concluded within the period as set by the department and ourselves. So far, Chair, we can indicate that the total volume, which is billable, is in the volume of about 1.9 billion. That is the registered volume in terms of water rights that have been issued. We're also seeking, Chair, to increase the level of allocation to the historically disadvantaged individuals, as well as to look at the finalization of the water allocation reform. And this will be done, Chairperson, as soon as the process of the validation and verification is finalized, where the agency will definitely look at to what extent are we reallocating the rights to those who need it the most, and those who are not utilizing some of the rights that they have. We can really look at issues including introducing comparison licensing going forward. And we're quite excited to be a part of this management and the board to participate in this critical transformation steps as we move forward.
That's the thing.
Chairperson. Equally so, our contribution to the triple BE is also at the center of our operation, and we can report to the committee that out of an expenditure of about 31 million, we have spent an amount of in excess of 20 million towards triple BE. And in the areas of CSI, we wish also to appreciate the support of the department led by the minister and both deputy ministers, Deputy Minister Makadze and Deputy Minister Mahlobo, who have really been on the ground supporting the agency in its endeavors to provide water to the most stressed communities in and around our water management area. And these are some of the interventions that have been put in place with the support of the department as led by Deputy Minister Mahlobo and Deputy Minister Makadze. In the areas of human resources, it's apparent, Chairperson, that we have filled about 118 positions, and we are still looking forward to also fill the other positions, given the current financial constraints, and with the support of the board. As soon as our financial situation improves, we shall be looking at filling of the other positions, Chairperson. But currently, this is the statistics in respect of the vacancies and the position that are still vacant. So far, there is about 12 funded posts and about 17 which are unfunded. And this is largely due to the financial constraints that the organization is currently going through. We're also proud, Chair, to report that the vacancy rate currently stands at about 9.2%. Also proud about our contribution into job creation initiatives, where we've seen about 22 graduates who have been placed for work gain experience, as the board chair has reflected on. We're also proud, Chair, that the issues of gender parity are at the center of this management and the board, as we are looking at the statistics where we seek to improve the representation of women. Chairperson, we have already reflected on issues around job creation, and these are the specific areas. The areas, Chair, of the performance of the organization, we're also indicating performance levels of just get this right. Okay. And these are some of the key areas of performance that we've been able to achieve as the agency. Apologies.
Can you
Chair.
present that endaweni ezimbili nangesikhathi esisodwa?
Sorry, Chairperson, we just want to reflect the performance tables, and apologies for that. Chair, we are reporting to the committee that the IUCMA has, during its planning horizon, complied and aligned itself with the TPME strategic planning framework. And as a result of that, these are the outcomes of the performance levels as recorded in the last financial year. We are quite passionate, Chairperson, about the stakeholder engagement value. And hence there was a target of about 80% in terms of the implementation of the stakeholder engagement plan. The actual performance was at about 100%. And the reason for that, Chair, was the increased level of interactions with our stakeholders, being the irrigation boards, the municipalities, the mines, ESCOM, as well as other sectors who would really contribute to the achievement of the indicators, as well as ensuring that we are all of us on the same page about the delivery imperatives of the IUCMA in the protection of the water resource. We had also set ourselves a target of less than 1 in terms of the injury rates. That target has been achieved because actual performance was at 0. Chairperson, including the areas of employee turnover, the target being 6%. This target was achieved as the performance levels remained at 0. Cost control, Chairperson, in the very difficult financial constraints as the state-owned entities, the target was about 80%. We must indicate to the committee that this target was not met, and the reason for that was the basis that we had to do some reversals back to the irrigation boards to comply with the agency agreements, and this was as a result of the being advised by our internal audit that we needed to actually pay back the commission which was due to irrigation boards. However, we did not pay money back. We had to do some credit notes towards the irrigation boards, which then affected our performance and revenue for the financial year. We're also cognizant that the financial sustainability of the organization becomes important, and hence the board looked at issues around revenue enhancement. We can indicate, Chairperson, that the target was set at 25%, which target in the year under review has been exceeded, as actual performance was at about 32%, which is a reflection of the hard work that the board and management have put in place to meet with some of those key data that were owing the agency for them to pay what was due to the agency. In terms of operations, we are also seized with an opportunity to look at the targets around the monitoring of compliance to resource quality objectives, where the target was set at 90%. That target was also met. There was also a target that was set of the percentage of monitoring of compliance to international obligations, given the location of the operating environment of the agency. We have to make sure that the 3 states, as agreed in the protocols, are able to be provided with what is required in terms of the resource, particularly Eswatini as well as Mozambique. And it is our responsibility to ensure that we monitor the transboundary transfers, and the target was at 90%. And we have reported that the monitoring was done and this target was achieved. In the areas of the water use authorizations, we can indicate that the target was at 90%. This target was also met and exceeded, as actual performance was at 95%. This is a reflection of the efficiencies that have been put in place to ensure that all the water use applications, authorizations are processed within the pronounced period by the state president of 90 days. And we must indicate that that area is actually being managed. Chair, on issues around regulatory compliance, we are able to report that the target was at 90%. This target was also achieved and exceeded, as we've seen increased level of performance in terms of this target. We have revised this target for the current financial year, as we've seen a high level of overperformance in this area. Chairperson, I would then revert back to the CFO, to the presentation, so that the Chief Financial Officer could be able to provide the committee with the financial performance of the organization for the year under review. Thank you very much.
CFO.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to get the presentation on the screen. My apologies. Thank you, Chair. I believe that's now showing on your side. Afternoon, honorable members and Chair. Right, there you go. I'm just to present the financial position of the agency for period ending March 2022. Just some significant highlights, Chair. We managed to comply with all regulatory timeframes. Our financials were signed off on the 31st of July, and subsequently we submitted audited financials to the department, National Treasury, and all other important stakeholders. As alluded by my chairperson, we've managed to receive an unqualified audit opinion, and also in the year under report, we reported a surplus of 8.6 million, and this is contrary to a loss of 5.3 million reported in 2021. So Chair, upon the completion of our external audit processes, we had 3 areas of concern that was raised by external auditors. The first issue is a going concern that my chairperson has also alluded to in terms of the reduction of the grant appropriated by Parliament, and also the low recoverability rate that we're experiencing with our water users. We also had a challenge with increased dependency on systems that are centralized at the department. This includes the SAP, WARMS, and other critical services that we are actually dependent on DWS. We also had a challenge with poor data quality, which was also alluded by BGCMA as well, that is impacting the recoverability rate of our debtors. So in terms of the financial position, we have reported a solvent balance sheet. We had accumulated profits, so accumulated surplus on hand of 4.8 million versus a reported loss of 3.8 in the last financial year. The major movements were seen in a reduction of our liabilities of 32%. We also had a 34% increase in non-current assets. In terms of the financial performance of the agency, we reported operating surplus of 8.6 million versus a loss of 5.3 million in the last financial year. Major movements were noticeable due to an increase in our total revenue of 16%. We also had an acceptable market-related increase of total expenditure of about 6%. The increase in the revenue, Chair, were really due to one major element, which was a recognition of surplus funds, which we recognized in the financial year due to meeting the condition of the grant. We also reported higher interest revenue in terms of what we collected from the cash that we have in investments with the South African Reserve Bank. So those are the major movements we realized under revenue. Chair, under the cash flow statement, we have reported a decrease in our cash and cash equivalents of 23 million, which resulted in cash on hand as of the end of the financial year, equating to 49.6 million. And then, Chair, when we look at the budget versus the actuals, in terms of the budgeted figures, we had budgeted using zero-based budgeting processes to spend a total of 139 million, as well as revenue for the same amount, which we then projected a surplus and a loss of zero based on our budgeted figures. When we look at actual performance, we actually collected 162 million, which shows a 16% favorable performance in comparison to the budget figures. Again, the major reason for the favorable results is due to the recognized conditional grant in the financial year under analysis. We also had budgeted 49 million under the water resource charge invoices. These are the water related charges, but we only collected revenue of 33 million. The reduction was mainly due to the validation and verification exercise that resulted in a huge decline in terms of the billable volumes in the financial year. Chair, in terms of expenditure, we had budgeted 139 million in terms of expenditure. We, however, reported total spend of 153 million. The difference of 14 million, Chair, is again linked to activities that were funded utilizing the conditional grant. So we did not see an increase in our operating expenditure per se. The increase is really related to the conditions that were met that we then needed to realize in our income statement. And when we look at the final performance of expenditure, as alluded earlier, we reported an overspend of 10 million, but that is then counteracted by the transaction as reported in revenue as well, when we recognize the revenue in the income statement. So in terms of the irregular expenditure, Chair, we reported total irregular expenditure of 15.9 million. The 15.4 million was an opening balance relating to unregulated extension of contracts for office space. Chair, this amount has been recommended for write-off by our governing board. It's also been condoned by National Treasury for write-off. In the year under review, we also then identified an additional irregular expenditure of 494,000. This was due to approvals of international trips that was unregulated. My apologies, Chair, the table has just swapped the indicators. The 494,000 has been recommended by our governing board for write-off. We have submitted a request to National Treasury that is still under consideration. And Chair, just to also highlight, under all these areas, we did not incur any loss in terms of value for money. We did receive services in return for the amounts paid, and there was no act of fraud when we did the investigations. In terms of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we reported a total of 357,000, 300,000 shares in opening balance, and this amount has been condoned for write-off by our board. The other amounts, Chair, were really linked to COVID restrictions and other matters that were outside the agency's control. So due to those reasons, the board has also approved the write-off. With the exception of one amount of 18,000 Chair, we have managed to recover that from the transgressor as identified during the investigations. We've also implemented corrective actions, even under irregular expenditure, to ensure that going forward, Chair, the agency does not record any items under this type of expenditure. So we've increased controls in SCM processes. Chair, if I'll just allow the C to come back on so he can provide concluding remarks. Thank you.
Chairperson, this last slide actually reflects the key focus areas of the agency going forward. And I think it's important that to indicate that we will put in place additional measures to ensure that the protection and the use of the water resources, conservation thereof, we're going to increase our efforts in this area. The obligation, international obligations, it's a matter that we are seized with, and we want to continue to support government and our mother department to ensure that we monitor the transfers. We also want now to increase our efforts in terms of ensuring that the past imbalances in terms of the water allocation rights. This is a matter which we are going to be focusing on, and the support of our board. We also are continuing to engage with the department around the allocation of the Schedule 3 delegations. And I think the minister is considering or informed this specific aspect, and we are hoping for the best outcome. The establishment, Chairperson, of the Water Users Associations is also another priority that we've set for ourselves, because given the various water users, being the municipalities, the irrigators, industries, as well as other users, it's important to bring everyone on board, and we are supporting the department to ensure that this process is seamless, and we are eventually going to be establishing the water users associations. We also want to increase our efforts to ensure that the non-compliant activities are looked at, particularly, Chairperson, in the areas of the illegal use of water, illegal abstraction, illegal storage, and illegal usage of the water. These are some of the activities that we want to focus on going forward. The critical one that we wish to look at, Chair, going forward is in the areas around ensuring that the data that we have within the agency is actually that of quality and integrity of the information. And we're going to make sure that we put in plans in the organization to have good data and data that is of integrity, particularly in the areas of water users. And we're going to work hard to ensure that that is achieved, Chairperson. And Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. And this slide brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
I was expecting, but Mashaba, are you in?
Comrade Chair, what done now? Water Research Commission, Dr. Jolly was leading the team. They've done their work. And then the acting CE there, they're also done. I'm very pleased. All of the two of them have in audit. The other one is qualification and irregular. They need to deal with it internally, Chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, members. Anyone who seeks to talk, please raise your hand on the platform. Let me see whose hand is up. Two hands thus far. I can see the hand of Mr. Hendricks and Miss Muthala. No, is it Mrs. Muthala? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Where is the manager? No, something has happened. Okay. Metseke. Three thus far. Can we hear Mr. Hendricks?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I would like to congratulate the Deputy Minister. What we've heard this afternoon follows what I told you yesterday, and which you repeated, and that is that things are getting better. I think that is hope for the country, and we look forward to many other parts of the Deputy Minister's department following this example. I was very impressed when I heard about zero-based budgeting, because that is the way forward, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I would like to talk more about the scientific department that we have, and it's a very, very important research component. And when I was a councillor in the city of Cape Town, I did a lot of work on water treatment plants and sewage plants and sewage pollution. And I even went so far as to take 4 professors to our mayor in order to explain to him some of the concerns that the academic community has with regard to measurements, because we test the water, we test the air quality, we test everything, and it is compared against certain norms, and these norms are sometimes, Honorable Chair, published in the Government Gazette, and it serves as a guideline. And what the professors at Stellenbosch University, University of the Western Cape, University of Cape Town, the CSIR, what they said was that those measurements against which we measure is out of date. And it is out of date because of climate change, because of changing circumstances. And some of those measurements were made before you were even born, Honorable Chair, and it needs to be updated. I know you want to be young, but that is what I assume. So I would like to hear in the response of the Deputy Minister or whoever he delegates it to, whether the norms and standards that we measure against, we can hold our head up high. And as I talk to you now, I feel that we hear the good reports, the good measurements, that the water is drinkable, and so on and so on. But what is it measured against? Then lastly, Honorable Chair, I've heard so many times that in our water, we still drink the urine, especially if there are plants that treat the sewage. It looks like they may neutralize the harmful effects of the urine. I want to know from our scientists, I suppose the best in the country, are we drinking urine in our taps? Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
No,
Thank
so
you,
much,
Honorable Chair. I'm done.
Chairperson.
I think the urine shocked everyone.
Yeah, we are shocked, but yeah, it's fine. Let's proceed. Chairperson, thanks so much for
Yes, Mutala.
opportunity. Yes. Now, my question is directed to the department and the Water Research Commission. My question is, how far is the department in revising the Water Research Council Act, Commission Act? And with the excellent work done by the Water Research Commission, should the department allocation, should the budget allocation not be increased to ensure efficiency and sustainability of water and sanitation research? The next question, Chairperson, is how far is the department in increasing the number of catchment management agencies in the country? Because we've been talking about this thing for quite some time. Chairperson, please, you're disturbing me. Please mute your mic. So the question is, how far is the department in increasing the number of catchment management agencies in the country? We've been speaking about this matter for quite some time now. I think there must be any progress on this matter. So we need to know how far are they with that process. The other question, Chairperson, is both the catchment management agencies took over the data of the department within their areas of jurisdiction and are still struggling to obtain accurate information. How is the department assisting the two catchment management agencies? As there's no accurate documentation on taking over the data. So we want to know how are they doing in that regard. Chairperson, lastly, the Breede-Gouritz. In terms of the Breede-Gouritz, how is the department assisting with not receiving outstanding information, previous data information. So can we get also an accurate answer in that regards? Thank you.
Metseke, my apology, Mamdala. I did not see that my mic was on. Metseke.
Oh, Chair, thanks very much. And let me, afternoon to all the members present and the DM and all the officials present. Chair, I think we are comfortable and impressed, and we want to commend the entities of the department in terms of the good performance in their annual reports. They are continuously making us proud, especially your Water Research Commission and the Usuthu engaging their clean audit. And I think it's important that the Breede-Gouritz implement their turnaround strategy in making sure that they improve their audit outcomes in the next financial year. But we have confidence in the leadership of the CMA, the Breede-Gouritz, that they will be able to turn around the performance of the entity. I think my question will link to what Honorable Motlhale is saying, that the two catchment agencies actually require greater assistance from the department with regard to the debt collection from the previous historical challenges. Just to check with the department, how are they going to assist them together with the National Treasury and COGTA? Do they have any strategy to assist the two CMAs? I think that's my question, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Let me check.
Chairperson? No. Pela, you
must not work that
allowed,
way. We must not work that way. You have just spoken. Since one person speaks, now you want to speak again.
No. I forgot one question. Can I add just one? And it's allowed. If you forgot, you forgot. So it's just a simple question, which I want to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Could Breede-Gouritz further expand and clarify the issue of receiving an unqualified audit outcomes due to the departmental errors within the department's water trading entity? Thank you.
Okay. I was checking whether there is another hand. There is none. Just two comments. On the water corridors, I think that one, what I really want to emphasize on them, water corridors, is the honesty of the explanation on the three findings that they have. But the content thereof is important. What a CEO and a CFO, for instance, you have given a very clear example of why you're finding you believe you are comfortable with. For instance, you are saying you bought a Ford car, and for you to service the Ford car to be in standard, you want to give it to Ford. But the SCM says to you, you must go and tender in order for people to contest on how to service the car. There is no sense there. If you have bought a car from Ford, it is only Ford that can service this car better. But then the SCM expect of you to go for tender. I think all of us, politically and administratively, we need to apply our mind on such findings that, to me, are irrational. How do you have a Ford car and then you put a Toyota a part on it because it's serviced by Toyota? You are no longer driving Ford. And I think the SCM need to be realistic in looking into those issues. But the point I wanted, one point I want to raise, it might be a contradiction of what Metsek and Mamsala are saying, is this thing. When you buy a debt, or when you take over a debt from me, it is because I am failing to manage it and I can't service it. Therefore, you commit to service it on my behalf and you shall be paid. How do you in the long term working forward now expecting me again to keep on giving you information on the debt that is no longer with me, which is now already with you? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the problem statement you are making there. On the last presentation, I wanted to understand the relationship between your Hoshani water treatment place and your Nyaka Dam and the supply of water in the Bushbuckridge area is concerned, because as we speak consistently, you don't get water in areas like your Tulamahashi, your Bisonto, your Akonogo, Zandia, your Mariti. You might find water in the Mukutu areas and the likes and Nyaka Dam is specifically in Bushbuckridge. How is that relationship going? Thank you. We are expecting response on the questions raised. Let's start with the Water Research Council. Water Research Committee.
Yes. I'm responding on behalf of the Water Research Commission. The first question about water quality and concern about drinking water contaminated with urine. I would like to ask one of the members of the executive to respond. On the question of revision of the Water Research Act.
What now? Failed.
Can you hear me? When in April, when we presented the APP, we requested the department to prioritize the revision of the Water Research Act so that it's up to date, not 1971 as it stands. So we have already raised that issue ourselves. CEO and your team, please respond to the water quality question.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to members for the questions. Yes, Chair, you're correct. In terms of the Water Research Act amendment, the WRC has done the work, and we have been in consultation with the department, with legal services in actually getting them to understand the proposals so that those can be submitted and tabled to the portfolio committee and the necessary processes within Parliament. So that process is ongoing. Secondly, the question around water quality, I think, and the drinking of urine touched on a number of issues. Firstly, Chair, it's talking to the outdatedness of the systems that we are using, and maybe also the monitoring protocol that we are using. Chair, maybe let me start by saying that the systems that we are using and the monitoring protocol, it's not something that we are doing for ourselves in South Africa. It is benchmarked, it is world class, and therefore we are monitoring what would be monitored elsewhere in the world. The norms and standards, Chairperson, in terms of what we call our SANS 241 standards for drinking water, Chair, are very comparative and even sometimes stringent compared to the world standards. So whether or not we are short-circuiting and trying to give us our people urine, it's not a correct analysis, Chair. But that being said, I would still want to touch on the issue of, yes, how is the water quality? Chair, we are having a lot of discharge in terms of our wastewater treatment works not meeting the effluent discharge minimum requirements, and therefore that is having a cumulative effect in the water resources and therefore having an impact in terms of water quality, coupled with issues of climate change impacts, Chair, around evaporation, obviously, and the concentration of the elements within the resources. Yes, there is a challenge. That then poses a financial challenge to the water boards or bulk water suppliers in terms of abstracting water and treating it to the blue drop standard, which is the drinking water standard that is called SANS 241. But Chair, in most of the municipalities and the water that is drunk or provided to our communities, we can look at the blue drop report that was recently released by the department in the recent months ago, which indicates that the standard of still is still relevant. There are some challenges in terms of infrastructure, but in essence, in terms of quality, there isn't that much of a challenge. But Chair, for us, in terms of the Water Research Commission, we are also looking at what we call water quality and health. And one of the aspects that may be better placed to clarify this matter would be looking at the incidence and occurrence of gastrointestinal outbreaks, which not necessarily mean cholera, but all others, in order to be able to determine if there are indeed concerns around the quality of water that our people are drinking in line with the standards. That being said, Chair, we need to recognize that in terms of infrastructure rollout, particularly in the rural areas, there are still some vulnerable communities that are relying on the use of water that is from the rivers and maybe underground water for drinking purposes. But as education and awareness goes, Chair, our people are encouraged to treat the water using primary treatment protocol like your jig, putting your water in the UV sun, and making sure that the water, when it's treated, it is at least with of good quality. I think that is the answer that suffices for this question. Thanks, Chair.
Gouritz.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. And thank you, Honorables Tseke, Moshala, and yourself, Chairperson. I think the one point, I think, is just a comment made by Honorable Tseke of being able to implement the turnaround strategy. We are committed in, turning around the strategy. I mean, I must say that for 13 years, we've been receiving unqualified audits, and with last year having a clean audit. For us, this came as a shock, but at the same time, as an education, that sometimes you can be caught off guard, and very small things that you take for granted can actually make you and make the entire department look bad. So indeed, we have done an investigation, as the CEO has highlighted, and we have found no fraud. But that in itself, we still need to implement the right procurement processes to ensure that we, keep around. And I think the other point on expanding, Chairperson, I am hearing some background children. I wonder where the sound is coming from.
Chairperson must mute.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chairperson and Honorable Tseke. I think the one point that was also mentioned is the expansion, or perhaps to maybe share a little bit deeper on why is it that this debt is creating the issue that we're sitting with. I think it's very difficult, obviously, when you receive documents that do not clearly detail or record who their water users are. And I think what we are doing as BGCMA, it's those that have been traced and have managed to pay the debt. We are using the actual invoice. And I think the CEO and I met, I think, last week, and I think he said something to me. Yanni, if you can hear me through you, Chairperson, perhaps he can say what we spoke about. Because once a water user pays, then we're able to confirm that that is indeed the water user, and we're starting to update the records. I think it's very important that our commitment is that even though we may look bad in terms of this debt, it's also not good practice to give away government money. So what we keep on working to do is to actually make sure that we find proper debt collection mechanism to continue collecting the revenue that is owed to the state. But unfortunately, it does continue to make us look bad. Yanni, if it's okay through you, Chairperson, I don't know if you want to share that element that you guys are using to ensure that we can record and reflect on who the water users are. Thank you.
Allowed.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manishi. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I just want to go back and just for everybody's benefit, explain what is the problem. In terms of water use management, already since 2002, if a person or a farmer or a municipality or an industry is using water, then you were supposed to complete a water registration form that you indicate the volumes and you sign on that form. Now that form is then used to capture the information that's on the form on the water authorization registration management system, what we call just shortly the WARMS. So the WARMS is a national system and the CMA play a role in the WARMS. So from the WARMS, it actually talked to another system that we call the SAP in the water business that is actually generating the invoices based on what is registered. So what happened to our surprise, the auditors came here because of the outstanding debt. Then they were not convinced that these people really exist. So what they didn't do, they went physically to the hard files to see if there is a completed registration form that was signed by the water user. And what was explained by Mr. Manishi, in some cases that document could not be found. And that document, I mean, I don't want to mention the past, but we inherited in the Breede-Gouritz CMA from the mother department that previously operated the management system and the registration of water use. So because it's difficult to confirm, there's no signed document. So now we're going to put in alternative arrangement how to confirm a water user. And like Mr. Manishi said, is one of them, for example, if you send the invoice and you apply pressure that the person must pay the invoice, as soon as there's a payment on the invoice, for example, then somebody can see because there is a payment, there is actually a real water user on that side. And we also follow our VNV process where we confirm the water use for that same person. If that same person sign a VNV document, for example, that will then also be approved of the water user. So we are really trying in all types of creative ways to get hold of our water users and to confirm that. And that is an ongoing process. But what is very clear after this negative finding of the auditors, in the next year, we will be in a far better position regarding the existence of our water users and debtors, and also the understanding. We will become better of our income base. We will really understand with all the supporting documents. So it's a learning curve. It's a bad thing that happened to us, but I think at the end of the day, we will be stronger from this negative thing that happened. Thank you, Chair.
The last team. Are we still in the meeting?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much for the question. Are you CMA here? With your permission, Chairperson, Chairperson, I will ask Acting Executive Manager, Water Resource Management, to address your question on Hoshani and Nyaga.
Thank you, Chair. Just to give clarity on the issue of Nyaga Dam, based on the current reconciliation strategy that has been done now for the area, we have noted that the current demands for the particular area, Hoshani and the areas of Tulamahash, they are currently met now, but when we do the projections up to 2020, there is need for a new dam that might be required as an option around the Tulamahash area. And I'll explain the reason why, Chairperson. In that area, we've got a transfer pipeline from Nyaga Dam. and it has got a limited capacity of 25 million cubic meters per annum. So as long as that capacity is fixed, so it's not possible to transfer additional water to that side of the area of Tulamahash. So the only option currently is around the groundwater development, which we also started to see that is not even enough as well. So there are intervention options, including clearance of alien vegetation, which we have started as a CMA as well. We've got a program around there in the Bushbuck Ridge area, also to assist in alleviating the problem. So those are the challenges, and but there are proposed interventions, Chairperson, that in the long-term horizon of 20 years for future, meeting the future requirements. But the current challenge that might be there is because of the current system, the way the bulk infrastructure is set in that particular area, which might be beyond the expertise for the IUCMA. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. So it means you must activate Ngwamkalemba Dam then, if that is the case. But it's fine, we can talk outside this meeting. There was an old dam there called Ngwamkalemba Dam there. And that dam is now, because it has got alien trees on it and so forth, but I think let's talk about it later. Is there anyone whose hand is up for further questions of clarity? I don't see any.
Chairperson, it's
Yes.
BGCMA Minister here. I don't know if you still need any information. I think there was some questions asked around what is to be done to support these entities in getting the paperwork. I just want to make sure that the honorables are happy that those are either covered with our responses, there is nothing else. And there was also a question around how far is the finalizing of the further establishment of other CMAs. I don't want to talk for my colleagues, Chairperson, but I just wanted to make sure that those questions are still there. And if the honorables are happy with the feedback to be covering those, then that's okay. Thank you very much, Chair.
That was the reason I was asking if there is any hand. In the absence of the hand, it means honorables are happy. Of course, remember, they might still come individually to individual teams, and please help them like for instance, I'm saying I will still go to ICMA there about the issue of Ngwamkalemba Dam and the dams around Tulamahash and Role, just to see whether we can do something better. If we can't, that's fine. But I think thus far we can hear the report. The reports are very, very encouraging. It do show that there is work being done on daily. We might not meet the requirements as is, but we are doing our work. Members, do I take it that we are all satisfied with, or there is Sgwaza?
Chairperson, good afternoon, honorable members. Our DDG, Lusenga, I think she has network problems, Chair. Then we will take, just respond on the issue of the catchment management agencies that was raised by Honorable Mothala. We have established 2 catchment management in the country that are currently operating, and we had today in terms of their operations. We are in the process of developing 2 others, the Val and Orange, and also the Pongola to Mzimkulu. Those 2 are at a stage where we are about to appoint the board, the selection panels in terms of advisory committees are being established. And thereafter, we will go to in the Eastern Cape, the Nzimvubu to Tsitsikamma, and the last one in the Limpopo area. So, Chairperson, we intended to have 6 CMAs in the country. And as part of the National Water Resource Strategy, We are also consulting on the number of water management areas, which will correspond to the number of catchment management agencies in the country. Chairperson, with regard to Mr. Hendrick's issues on norms and standards, in addition to what the CE of Water Research Commission has indicated, we have a number of norms and standards in the country, ranging from the drinking water quality standards, the wastewater treatment works, the discharges to the environment, the tariffs, norms and standards, and also the contracting between the service providers and the municipalities. And all our entities, they comply with those norms and standards. We have done very well in terms of the blue and green drop because we have been able to measure the norms and standards and the compliance from our municipalities. And with regard to tariffs, they are also on an annual basis, they publish the tariffs that are charged by water boards as bulk water providers. We also have the contracts that are signed, entered to between the water boards and the water services authority. Chairpersons, what we see today, although we have recognized that there are challenges in terms of the debt and also the data that was handed over from national to the two CMAs, our revenue section is working with the various entities to try to ensure that we improve on that. We have a huge number of water users in the country, Chairperson. It requires a lot of effort. And this is why the National Water Act promotes the issue of decentralization, because things do not happen well if we are at a national level, but as we move towards a catchment management level, you can see that there is huge improvement in terms of reaching out, in terms of collecting revenue, in terms of pollution, and in terms of dealing with the enforcement of those that are not complying. And Chairperson, this is why we are very encouraged to see that at a local level, if you have local institutions that are managing water resource management, things are going to improve. We have a lot of hope, and we are convinced and confident that Breede will be able to turn around to also come back to the unqualified audit reports. And we are now working towards expanding their area so that they can cover the entire Western Cape. Chairperson, we have colleagues here, Chairperson, from various managers from various water resources management that can also add to the questions. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for those additions. I thought that each and every CA has already spoken to their issues. You have generalized your responses in order to add on those that you think has been added. And unless there is somebody who still want to add others, let's hear that. But I thought that you have answered enough on our questions. No, there is no one whose hand is up on the portal. Thank you very much for the presentations. Nosipo?
Chairperson?
Where are we?
Closing remarks by you.
Oh, okay. No, thank you very much, colleagues. Remember that we said that we are going to Limpopo in Kiani, Bandoni area and so forth and so on. I did raise the issue, you remember, in the last meeting, of some people who are going about labeling the deputy minister most one, but the department in general, that we have actually badmouth the name of Host Ramova in as far as the delay of the water reticulation is concerned. And we must say that that is really a myth, because the department is, even today, Deputy Minister Mahlobo is there, is talking to all the chiefs and the indunas that are there, of course, Hosh Ramova included. So it can't be correct that that assertion is made the truth, because it is not the truth. Mama Kadzi is always there working with the chief and with the other indunas. So it cannot be correct that we make that assertion. That assumption was wrong. It is found, even myself, having spoken to some other people there, it is confirmed that indeed Hosh Ramova has not done things that it was said by this particular caller. So I thought because I said it in the portfolio committee that there is that caller, I must correct it in this portfolio committee again, that is not correct, because the rate is that it is not true.
Can we also be allowed to speak after you, Chair, with regards to this matter?
No, it is my closing remarks.
No, but you're closing with a wrong remark.
Okay. Yeah, the remarks cannot always be.
Now,
right.
if you're going to speak and then we can't talk after that, and you are closing with a
But
wrong
you have adopted
remark
the agenda with,
about
with
the Kiani matter, we also have our own view as different political parties. So what you are saying now, you're just gonna rap like that, and it's gonna be as if all of
propose
us
it
are
in the
agreeing.
meeting, Mamsala. No,
It's
listen,
gonna be
Mamsala.
like all of us are agreeing on
No,
your remark.
no,
Don't
Mamsala,
close like that.
The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.